Bas Rutten is easily one of the most decorated pioneers of early MMA, alongside names like Royce Gracie, Mark Coleman, and his Pancrase colleagues who brought shoot fighting into the age of no holds barred. His distinctions are numerous: the King of Pancrase, UFC heavyweight champion, and perhaps most importantly, co-starring in a film with Kevin James. Which of these is most important? You decide for yourself. Bas is a particularly interesting story for the development of mixed martial arts, as a sport and as a discipline, as he came into MMA with a background in Dutch kickboxing, Kyokushin karate, and Taekwondo. Although he hides it well by being literally the coolest ever, Bas is a massive nerd, a member of that generation that took up Eastern martial arts after watching Bruce Lee films and wanting to learn the correct kung fu in order to make someone's head explode. Perhaps then it's providence that he would go on to hang out with a whole roster of fighting nerds. No, not those guys. First being scouted for Fighting Network Rings Holland, before getting recruited for Pancrase when Masakatsu Funaki and Minoru Suzuki saw him knocking out his sparring partner, the Rings Holland champion. This was the era of no holds barred, when cross-training was not yet widely practiced. So he was going in with basically zero grappling against a bunch of wrestlers with zero striking. It worked out well enough for him in his first two fights, as he knocked out Yanagisawa, sorry I'm the Japanese here, with a palm strike and nuked poor Fuke with a knee to the body, but he would go on to get submitted by Funaki in his next fight. Bas had no idea what the fuck to do on the ground, and to do so had to be open to learn from his mistakes. Thankfully for him, Pancrase had a very open environment, and Funaki himself offered to coach up the Dutchman on proper ground fighting. Before long, Bas himself would be submitting folks left and right, evolving into a very well-rounded fighter. In my opinion, if you could bring prime Bas back today as a light heavyweight or maybe even middleweight fighter with modern weight cutting practices, he would still be incredibly good, as his bodywork and defensive grappling are something often missing at the higher weight classes. To see his evolution from someone whose favorite submission was a punch a la Alex Pereira, to a guy who would win a fight off his back against Randleman even if the decision was controversial, I'm going to take a look at his career via some key fights, and track his evolution. I won't look at every single fight as he has 33 MMA bouts, but we'll focus on the ones where his grappling notably changes or improves. As a note, all of his Pancrase fights are available on Rutten's YouTube channel, and feature commentary from Bas himself. El Guapo is far more charismatic than I could ever be, and I'll reference some notes from his commentary track if relevant. Starting with his first submission loss, it's time to see how the kickboxer became the karate wrestling champion that we all know and love today. The first loss of his professional career, this short bout is a case study in Bas before he had literally any idea of what he was doing on the ground. From his commentary and interviews, you can learn that the extent of his grappling training at this point had just been rolling around with guys who had done judo for a hot second, but that's about it. Rutten tries to unleash the thunder on Funaki, but gets taken down almost immediately. He gets full guard, but just grabs a body lock, holding on for dear life as the wily Funaki basically tries to just suffocate him with a scuffed version of an Ezekiel choke. Future Bas makes fun of himself at this moment, comparing his locked hands to praying. He's not making any terrible decisions, but this is a very passive position, bear hugging the hybrid wrestler, almost like when Anderson Silva would do a body triangle from full guard to mitigate any activity whatsoever. Funaki slowly progresses to half guard, doing the silly catch wrestler thing where he's digging for an armbar grip while still in Rutten's guard technically, before Rutten's leg elevates enough that Funaki can snag the toe hold for the finish. Rutten has no get-ups, guard work, or basic instinct to save himself beyond the bear hug and ghillie pull, or side choke as he calls it. There's a lot of work to be done here. Bas scores his first submission victory against Vernon Tiger White, utilizing his aforementioned side choke. It's not exactly the highest fight IQ stuff by modern standards, but the form on his ghillie is great. Rather than just lazily grabbing it like some do, he really digs in his arm for a good bite mid-takedown. Going for the high elbow variation, you do see get finishes here and there. Probably taking the cue from Funaki and Suzuki, as White shoots, you can first see Bas reach for what I assume is a gotch-style piledriver / crotch lock grip before starting to control the head, heisting his hips backward. This is a crazy improvement in only a few months, and Bas is able to circle, almost taking the back before ending up on top. He ends up clumsily rolling for a leg, and a rope break is invoked to stand things back up. Before long, Vernon shoots again, but Bas grabs a really great bite on the ghillie. Despite only having half guard, he starts pulling Vernon not just backwards but upwards as well, trying to flip him. The ghillie from bottom is not great, but the mounted ghillie is superb. Although he can't quite get the leverage to flip him, he gets a disgusting angle which gets the tap. This is a great implementation of a new ethos, but it does beg one question. Why does Bas not simply learn to sprawl? Even in his later fights where he's good on the ground, Rutten will always opt to just take his chances on his back rather than avoid the takedown in a more efficient manner. It wasn't a Dustin Poirier situation where his hips were fucked and couldn't really perform the movement. So why is this? An unexpected answer to my prayers came in the form of a Dutch language seminar by El Guapo, which was helpfully translated by my Belgian homeboy who speaks silly English fluently. In it, Rutten talks about how all of his fighting philosophy goes back to Kyokushin karate, which stresses that offense is your best defense, and failing that, movement is alright too. In his brand of Kyokushin, you never stop attacking, constantly blitzing and offering counters. You can see this in his striking as he rattles off flashy combos like a freak, basically never pausing when he's in range. Most modern MMA strikers don't do this, because it opens you up to the takedown, leading to the I go, now you go rhythm we're accustomed to. This is also the reason you don't see a lot of pure Muay Thai specialists either. But for those who choose the walk the weed road, such as Rutten and later fighters like Wonder Boy or Bobby Knuckles, they first and foremost defend takedowns by simply not being there to be grabbed, blitzing in and moving away as soon as they feel the exchange is done. They drill cage get-ups and some guard work as well, but assume the risk of being taken down because they think it's worth it in order to maximize their offensive striking. Rutten would rather deal with fighting off his back than compromise his A game even for a second, and I love that mentality. That mentality also gets him knockouts in transition, as we'll continue to see throughout, as he might blast a knee aimed at the body and instead catch the head as the opponent changes levels to take him down, or basically end up soccer kicking someone. It's assumed risk, but not thoughtless. The R in his hand means relax, and he will remain tranquilo under pressure. After an unfortunate fight with Kazuyo Takahashi where the Japanese fighter's shin exploded, Bas finds himself against a very familiar face to returning viewers of the channel, the young demon Minoru Suzuki. Suzuki thus far had been undefeated in Pancrase competition, and in order to take away his O, Bas is going to have to step up. Very early on, Rutten drops Suzuki with strikes, vindicating the aforementioned mentality of never compromising his offensive capabilities. Further getting battered, Suzuki shoots a gorgeous reactive blast double, and very quickly advances to mount. Rutten for his part is trying to minimize damage, holding on to the bear hug S-grip he loves to do. In most modern contexts, this would be a very bad idea, just waiting to get submitted or get control time UD'd ostensibly. However, the in-house style of Pancrase is very high activity, characteristic of their shoot wrestling, with Suzuki continually transitioning between mount, side mount, and scarf hold trying to find a sub. It's hyper-aggressive and can yield good results, but also gives Bas an opening to explode. A silly-ass spin by Suzuki allows Bas to build posture,
I'll try spinning, that's a good trick.
Something he's going to continue to get better at. He gets his hips out with the ghillie grip, and instead of trying to submit, uses it to stand himself back up. From here, a knee to the liver gets the finish. The only man to beat Bas twice, Emperor Shamrock simply seemed to have the Dutchman's number, and he's simply not yet good enough to beat Mr. 2 grippy boots away from beating Royce Gracie. This fight is long and not particularly illuminating, as Shamrock is stylistically different from his Japanese colleagues. While not a lay and pray merchant at all, he is much more measured and careful, willing to spend extended periods of time laying in mount for Bas to give him something. To his credit, Rutten is really starting to understand frames, and you'll see him continually build his own posture to try and break down Ken. His hours of playing grab ass with the roster of Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi are paying off, to the extent where Shamrock abandons mount where he had been fishing for an arm lock and circles to north-south. Bas continues to stay safe and is even able to almost get up by turtling. A stand-up gets him free, but he's very quickly returned to fighting on his back. Bas is no longer completely clueless, and even chooses to attack leg locks off his back. Unfortunately, he doesn't know how to use them to stand up, and instead has to burn another rope break. The fight continues at the same pace until finally Ken snags the rear naked choke. While not a successful application of his defense as a whole, we saw Bas survive a long-ass time on the ground. Given where he started, this is a tremendous advancement. After a quick ghillie victory over Jason DeLucia, Rutten faces Shamrock Pequeño for the second to last loss of his MMA career. Bas is quickly taken down, but uses a wizard to build height and sweep Frank. It's great work by Bas, and really shows how far he's come. He's unable to stop the bridge and roll, but eventually gets the back and locks in a rear naked choke, stopped only by the rope break. Yeah, that's right, the kickboxer, if it weren't for Pancrase's rules, would have just submitted Frank Shamrock. Rutten is really beginning to learn how to scramble, not treating positions as static and instead rejecting them in lieu of staying in motion. Fighting off his back, he continues to look great, sweeping Frank into scarf hold and attempting the famous Rutten crush, before even hitting a crackdown as Frank tries to get back up. Repeatedly through the remainder of the fight, Shamrock keeps getting swept by the same bridge into the wizard, and Rutten continues to take his back on occasion. All Frank can muster are takedowns and laying on him, and I am not particularly impressed. The only real submission attempts or strikes are all by Bas, but nonetheless he loses the majority decision. I would score it for Bas, but this is Pancrase. His fight against Manabu Yamada is incredibly short, but shows his growing versatility as a submission artist. Bas refuses to go down easy on a bad takedown, and instead grabs the wizard and cranks it for dear life, throwing Yamada down. While not really willing to sprawl, Bas uses the motion of the takedown to get the sweep. He's done accepting position and responding from it, and instead deciding to take his chances. While starting to become quite savvy, he's still not super comfortable in top control, losing the back after looking perfect right up until then. However, Bas is no longer just an opportunistic front choke guy, he's a sub-hunter. Evolving the sweep he had used on Frank, Bas grabs a head and arm grip from bottom, bridges, and rolls. The grip stops Yamada from posting, and drops him right into a head and arm choke, which Bas easily finishes. This is quite frankly just beautiful stuff, and Rutten is almost in peak form. All it's going to take is one more loss and a lot of snapped legs. After getting quickly knee-barred by Ken Shamrock in their rematch, the last time he would ever lose, something snaps in Bas and he goes on a 3-fight leg lock streak for fights 12 through 14, finishing Fouquet, Smith, and DeLucia with a heel hook, knee bar, and another heel hook. As seen in previous fights, he isn't afraid to go for them, but I think quite simply, after nearly 2 years in Pancrase, he finally had the time on the mats to be good enough to finish leg locks. Now Rutten has not just his striking, but a killer front choke, 2 sweeps he's pretty good at, and an ability to navigate leg entanglements, which can allow him to not just get submissions, but also stand-ups or rope breaks if necessary. Altogether, it's a skill set that would be impressive nowadays at the higher weight classes given the general lack of grappling talent. And now he has a tool or multiple in every phase of the game. After winning a rematch against Frank Shamrock, which played out much like the first except Bas was awarded the decision and spent more time in leg locks, Bas challenges Minoru Suzuki for the King of Pancrase title. He's beaten Suzuki before, but this was sort of in spite of his grappling rather than because of it. If he can beat Suzuki at his own game and marry it to his striking, he might just be the best in the world. A single leg almost immediately takes Bas down, but he maintains full guard during the transition. Although Suzuki passes guard eventually, Bas frames very well, and is able to hit and escape from scarf hold, almost taking Suzuki's back before pulling an ill-advised ghillie, but fuck it, Dustin Poirier would approve. He gets his guard pass, but gets a sweep by baiting an armbar. But sadly, a foul causes the doctors to step in and inspect Suzuki, resetting the match. As things continue, Rutten gets his tools online, landing strikes, twice getting a stand-up, the first by pulling a ghillie and then taking a rope break, the second by utilizing a leg entanglement. He stuffs a takedown incredibly well later, but pulls the ghillie once again, getting his guard passed. However, Bas has evolved. and is able to actually re-guard instead of letting Misu just float from control to control before exploding up from side control, basically doing a pro wrestling backbend pin escape. It's the second most impressive thing he does all fight, wrestling up before fighting the attempted back take by Suzuki with a motherfucking rolling knee bar. The submission fails, but El Guapo se mantiene tranquilo, and he bridges and rolls, controlling head posture initially in an awesome way with a ghillie grip, before a leg entanglement leads to a rope break stand-up. Bas continues the loop of landing damage, being taken down, escaping via a roll or leg lock, leading to the finish. Suzuki is hurt, being pressured against the ropes, and shoots a takedown right into a guillotine. This time Bas is able to roll him to mount, and finishes the filthy guillotine on top. He is now the king of Pancrase. I end the study here because I think it shows the fully formed version of Bas as a grappler, as going forward it's pretty much wash, rinse, repeat with these techniques, and you don't want to hear me talk for that long. Or maybe you're a sick fuck and you do. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel, maybe I'll make a part 2 if people want to see more Rutten. Tangent aside, the progression of Bas over a relatively short span is insane, and also a great example of someone building a secondary game to complement his skills. Top mensch Jason Lieb of MMAI has talked about how you simply cannot ask a fighter to train a new primary skill. For example, if you sent Carlos Prates to the mountains of Dagestan for 2 to 3 years, there would be diminishing returns on that training as he only needs enough grappling to complement his striking, not to become an elite offensive grappler. It would waste his time and compromise his striking. But instead have him drill technical get-ups and some guard work, and over time you have someone that isn't helpless on the ground. Coming from the middle to end of the no-holds-barred era, Rutten is an early example of this. A truly well-rounded fighter, and not just a guy like Ken Shamrock who had grappling and then one punch. No shade to the early GOAT intended. Bas has enough on the ground to completely flip position and make guys wish they hadn't taken him there, all the while ensuring that his primary tools stay online as long as possible. He's a blueprint for growing as a martial artist, and a legend. Go watch more Pancrase.